Captain Olivia Martinez stood still as stone as she watched the tall, gray alien on the holographic display. High Counselor Zexthar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of his annoyance. His thin lips barely moved as he spoke the words that might doom humanity. The terms are final. Earth has 30 solar cycles to surrender all military assets and accept protectorate status within the hegemony. Any resistance will be met with total annihilation. Peace talks have failed due to your unreasonable demands for independence. The council meeting is adjourned. The hologram flickered and disappeared. Martines let out the breath she'd been holding and looked around the now silent meeting room. The other 5 human delegates sat in shocked silence. They had spent 3 weeks on this neutral space station trying to negotiate peace with the galactic hegemony, all for nothing. "Well," said General Alan Peters, breaking the heavy silence, "I guess we know where we stand." He stood up and straightened his uniform. "Captain, prepare the ship for immediate departure. We need to get back to Earth as soon as possible." Martinez nodded and left the room. As she walked through the corridors of the neutral station, aliens of various species moved out of her way. Some looked at her with what seemed like pity, others with poorly hidden satisfaction. News traveled fast. Aboard the UES Valiant, Martinez gave the order to disconnect from the station. The ship was humanity's finest vessel, yet it was tiny compared to the massive hegemony dreadnoughts that controlled this sector of space. The Valiant had survived 3 battles only because of Martinez's tactical skills and the ship's advanced stealth technology. "Set course for Earth," she ordered. "Maximum speed once we clear the neutral zone." "Yes, Captain," replied Lieutenant Frank Nichols at the navigation console. "Estimated travel time is 72 hours. Martinez nodded and went to her private quarters. She needed to prepare her report for the United Earth Council. How could she tell them that after 3 years of bloody conflict, their choices had narrowed to surrender or extinction? The hegemony controlled thousands of worlds across 12 galaxies. They had technologies humans could barely understand and fleets so vast they could block out suns. Yet somehow humanity had managed to hold its own. Earth forces had even won several key battles, surprising the aliens with unpredictable tactics and stubborn determination. But now the hegemony had lost patience. They would bring their full might against Earth, and no amount of clever strategy could stop them. 3 days later, Martinez stood in the Grand Council chamber in Geneva. The room was filled with 50 council members representing every nation on Earth. President Aaron Blackwood sat at the center, his face grim as Martinez finished her report. "So that's it?" asked Counselor Diana Lee. "We either give up our independence or they wipe us out. After all we've sacrificed. The hegemony doesn't understand why we keep fighting," Martinez explained. "To them, becoming a protectorate is an honor. They see our resistance as primitive and irrational." "What about our colonies on Mars and Europa?" asked another counselor. "Are they included in these terms?" "All human settlements," Martinez confirmed. "Complete disarmament. Hegemony oversight of all technology development. Resource quotas to be paid annually." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some counselors shouted that they should never surrender. Others argued that they had no choice if they wanted humanity to survive. President Blackwood raised his hand for silence. When the room quieted, he asked, "Dr. Nathan Price, you've been unusually quiet. What's your assessment?" A young man with tired eyes stood up. Everyone turned to look at him. Despite being only 32, Price was respected for his brilliant work in advanced physics. "I think," he said slowly, "that the hegemony's ultimatum might be the best thing that could have happened to us." Confused murmurs filled the room. "For the past year," Price continued, "my team has been studying recovered alien technology from the Battle of Proxima Centauri. We found something. Something I believe the hegemony fears we might discover." He looked directly at President Blackwood. "Sir, I need to show you what we found. It could change everything." The council chamber went completely silent as the implications of Price's words sank in. For the first time since the war began, A small spark of hope appeared in the darkness that threatened to engulf humanity. Dr. Samantha Wright hadn't left the lunar research facility in 3 weeks. Sleep came in short bursts between cups of coffee as she and her team worked to decode the alien artifacts recovered from the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The room around her was filled with strange devices that glowed with faint blue light. "Try the new frequency," she told her assistant, Ben Collins. The young physicist adjusted settings on his tablet, and the largest artifact, a spherical device about the size of a basketball, pulsed brighter. "Energy patterns stabilizing," Ben said, excitement in his voice. "We're getting somewhere." Samantha nodded, brushing a strand of blonde hair from her face. She had been studying this particular device for months, believing it to be part of the quantum communication array that allowed the hegemony's vast fleet to coordinate instantaneously across impossible distances. If she could understand it, maybe humanity would have a fighting chance. Her tablet beeped with an incoming message. It was from Dr. Nathan Price, marked urgent. She quickly read it, then looked up at her team with wide eyes. "The peace talks failed. The hegemony has given Earth 30 days to surrender." The room fell silent. They all knew what that meant. "Then we have 30 days to figure this out," Ben said firmly. Samantha nodded and turned back to the alien device. As it pulsed, patterns in the light began to form. Something about them seemed strangely familiar. 18 hours later, she sat bolt upright from where she'd fallen asleep at her desk. "The Omega files," she whispered. Quickly, she began searching through classified research archives. 20 years ago, Earth's early experiments with faster-than-light travel had produced several mysterious incidents. The research was abandoned and classified under Protocol Omega. What if those incidents weren't failures? What if they had accidentally touched the same subspace dimension that the hegemony used for communications? Samantha sent an urgent request to Admiral John Reeves, the highest-ranking military officer, with clearance to access the old files. Admiral Reeves was on the bridge of the UES Defender, Earth's largest battleship, when he received Samantha's message. He frowned as he read it, then turned to his communications officer. "Get me Kyle Foster. He's a retired scientist living in Arizona." "Sir," his second-in-command, Commander Lisa Bell, said quietly. "We just received word that the hegemony fleet is mobilizing. They're not waiting the full 30 days. Reeves nodded grimly. "They never intended to. Prepare all ships for defensive positions." He looked out at the stars visible through the main viewport. "And pray that Dr. Wright is onto something." 2 days later, Kyle Foster arrived at the Luna facility. He was an older man with weathered skin and sharp eyes. When Samantha showed him the alien device and explained her theory, he went very still. "We called them quantum echoes," he said finally. "When we ran the FTL experiments, we created ripples in some kind of subspace. The echoes disrupted equipment across the solar system. That's why the project was shut down." Samantha leaned forward eagerly. What if those ripples were disrupting the very medium the hegemony uses for instant communication? We could weaponize that effect. Foster looked at the alien device with new understanding. It would be like cutting the neural pathways in their fleet. Their ships wouldn't be able to coordinate. "Exactly," Samantha said. "We couldn't match their technology or numbers, but we could blind them." Meanwhile, Captain Martinez received new orders from President Blackwood. She was to take command of a secret initiative called Operation Lazarus, outfitting Earth's remaining 50 warships with experimental technology. The message gave no details about the technology itself, only that it represented humanity's last hope. As Martinez prepared to leave for the orbital shipyards, news arrived that hegemony scout ships had been detected at the edge of the solar system. They were coming earlier than expected. On the Luna facility, Samantha and Foster worked frantically to adapt the old Protocol Omega data to create a working prototype. Time was running out. When Foster integrated a piece of the alien device with their experimental apparatus, the entire system surged with energy. "It's working," Samantha whispered as the reading stabilized. It's actually working. She immediately sent a message to Admiral Reeves. Prototype operational. Beginning mass production. Need 48 hours. In space, the hegemony fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, their massive ships darkening the sky above Mars. The final countdown had begun. Lieutenant Commander Eric Dawson held his breath as the UES Phantom drifted silently past the massive hegemony battleship. The experimental cloaking technology made his small ship invisible to alien sensors, but Dawson still felt exposed. His mission was to gather intelligence deep in enemy territory, and he was now farther from Earth than any human scout had ventured before. Status report, he whispered to his crew of 5. All systems running silent, replied Susan Kelly, his second in command. Sensors are recording everything. The hegemony is mobilizing on a scale we've never seen before. Through the view screen, Dawson could see hundreds of alien ships gathering. Some were so large they looked like moving cities in space. The sight made his stomach sink. How could Earth possibly stand against this? "Sir," Susan said suddenly, "they're talking about Earth." The translator is picking it up. Dawson moved to her station. The ship's computer was translating the alien communications. High Command orders all battle groups to prepare for final assault. Target: Sol system. Objective: complete subjugation or elimination of human resistance. Timeline: immediate. They're not waiting for their own deadline, Dawson said. We need to warn Earth. Back at the Luna facility, Samantha Wright and Kyle Foster worked without sleep. Their prototype had successfully disrupted a small-scale test of alien communication technology, but scaling it up to affect the entire hegemony fleet was proving difficult. The power requirements are enormous, Foster said, rubbing his tired eyes. We'd need to install the device on every ship in Earth's fleet. Then that's what we'll do, Samantha replied. She pulled up a communication link to Captain Martinez, who was overseeing the retrofitting of Earth's warships in orbit. Captain, we've made progress, but there's a change of plans. Instead of one large disruptor, we need to equip each ship with a smaller device. They'll work together, creating a web of disruption. Martinez frowned at the news but quickly adapted. I'll inform Admiral Reeves. How long until the devices are ready? First batch will be done in 12 hours. We'll need to work around the clock to equip all 50 ships. As they spoke, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. A voice came over the speakers. Alert. Hegemony scout ships detected approaching lunar orbit. All personnel to battle stations. Martinez's expression hardened. They're coming for the facility. They must have detected our energy signatures. Doctor, you need to evacuate now. Samantha looked at the prototype, then at Foster. We can't leave yet. We need to finish this and transmit the specifications to Earth. On Earth, President Blackwood sat in the Emergency Command Center beneath Geneva. Reports of hegemony ships approaching flooded in from across the solar system. They're moving faster than we anticipated, General Peters said. Our outer defenses are engaging, but they're vastly outnumbered. Blackwood studied the tactical display showing Earth's forces in blue, retreating before the overwhelming red tide of enemy ships. But the retreat wasn't chaotic. It followed a pattern. Admiral Reeves is implementing the fight and fallback strategy, Blackwood observed, making it look like we're disorganized while actually following the AI tactical simulations. It will buy us some time, Peters agreed. But not much. A communications officer approached urgently. Sir, we've received an emergency transmission from Lieutenant Commander Dawson's stealth vessel. The hegemony is committing their entire fleet to this attack. Blackwood's face grew even more grave. And our quantum disruptors. Dr. Wright reports they're nearly ready, but the Luna facility is under attack. On the Phantom, Dawson made a difficult decision. His ship had gathered critical intelligence about hegemony fleet movements, but they had also discovered something even more alarming. A massive superweapon being prepared at a staging area near Jupiter. We need to disable that weapon, he told his crew. but it means sacrificing our stealth capabilities. The mission was to gather intelligence, sir, Susan reminded him. And now the mission is to save Earth, Dawson replied. Prepare to send all our data back to command via emergency quantum burst. Then plot a course for the weapon platform. Back at Luna, Foster worked frantically to finish the final calculations as the facility shook from enemy fire. Samantha was packaging the completed prototype core for transport. The specifications are transmitting to Earth, Foster said. I'll stay to make sure the data gets through. You take the prototype and go. Kyle, no. There's no time to argue, he said firmly. This is bigger than either of us. Get that device to Captain Martinez. It's humanity's only chance. As Samantha reluctantly boarded the escape shuttle with the prototype, Foster turned back to secure the transmission. Above them, the hegemony ships moved into position to destroy the facility. The Luna facility exploded in a ball of blue fire. Samantha watched from her escape shuttle, tears streaming down her face. Kyle Foster and 32 other scientists had just sacrificed themselves to ensure Earth received the quantum disruptor plans. I'm sorry, the pilot said quietly. Samantha clutched the small box containing the prototype core. Don't be. They made their choice. She took a deep breath. Now we need to get this to Captain Martinez. Set course for the UES Valiant. The shuttle accelerated away as hegemony ships surrounded the floating debris of the lunar base. They didn't notice the small human vessel slipping past them. In the outer solar system, Lieutenant Commander Dawson's stealth ship approached the massive hegemony weapon platform orbiting Jupiter. The superweapon looked like a giant metal spider, with long energy conduits extending from a central hub. Analysis complete, Susan reported. It's designed to generate a gravitational wave that could tear Earth's crust apart. They're charging it now. Dawson studied the schematics. There's a weakness. Those power junctions are exposed during the charging cycle. He looked at his small crew. We have one shot at this. We'll drop our cloak, fire everything we have at the junction points, then run like hell. The odds of success are low, his tactical officer pointed out. The odds of humanity surviving if that weapon fires are zero, Dawson replied. Prepare all weapons. On my mark. Admiral Reeves' main fleet continued its fighting retreat toward Earth. The strategy was working. Hegemony ships pursued in increasingly disorganized patterns, breaking their usual perfect formation as they chased what they thought were easy kills. Status report. Reeves demanded on the bridge of the UES Defender. 15 hegemony cruisers destroyed. We've lost 7 ships, Commander Bell reported. Captain Martinez reports the first batch of quantum disruptors is ready for installation on the primary battle group. Reeves nodded. Tell Martinez to proceed, and inform President Blackwood it's time for Operation Nightfall. On Earth, sirens wailed across every city as the emergency broadcast system activated. President Blackwood addressed the entire planet. Citizens of Earth, the moment we have prepared for has arrived. The hegemony has launched their assault earlier than expected. As discussed in prior emergency drills, we are now initiating Operation Nightfall. All non-essential power systems will shut down. All communications will go silent. Take shelter. Stay calm. Our forces are engaged in fighting for humanity's survival. Within minutes, lights across Earth began to go out. City by city, continent by continent, the planet went dark. From space, it would appear as if civilization had suddenly collapsed. On the hegemony command ship, High Counselor Zexthar watched the tactical display as Earth's lights winked out. Curious, he said to his subordinates. They shut down their planet's systems. Perhaps they surrender, suggested his second-in-command. No, Zexthar replied. Humans do not surrender. This is something else. He studied the display. Continue the advance, but with caution. Something is not right. Near Jupiter, the UES Phantom dropped its cloaking field and fired all weapons at the hegemony superweapon. The small ship's missiles struck the exposed power junctions precisely. Chain reactions rippled across the massive structure as Dawson ordered maximum thrust away from the target. "We did it," Susan shouted as explosions began consuming the weapon platform. But their victory was short-lived. Alarms blared as 5 hegemony patrol ships converged on their position. "We've lost stealth, and our weapons are depleted," the tactical officer reported grimly. Dawson nodded. "Send the emergency quantum burst with all our data. Make sure Earth knows the weapon is destroyed." He straightened in his chair. "And that we're not going down without a fight." On the UES Valiant, Captain Martinez received Samantha and the prototype core. Technicians immediately began integrating it into the ship's systems, while similar devices were installed across the fleet. "Will it work?" Martinez asked as she watched the installation. "It has to," Samantha replied simply. Martinez nodded and turned to her communications officer. "Signal all ships. Prepare to execute Operation Hydra on my command." Throughout the solar system, Earth's remaining warships received the coded message and began moving into position. The hegemony fleet, still pursuing what they thought was a disorganized retreat, had no idea they were being led into a trap. In the darkness of his command center, President Blackwood received the report about the destruction of the hegemony superweapon. He closed his eyes briefly in silent gratitude for Dawson's team, then turned to General Peters. "It's time," he said. "Tell Admiral Reeves he has green light for Phase 2. The hegemony fleet moved into Earth orbit, their massive ships blocking out the stars. With the planet dark below them, they prepared to begin their occupation. High Counselor Zexthar stood on his command ship's bridge, studying the silent blue world. "Begin scanning for surviving military installations," he ordered. "Prepare landing forces." His officers hurried to obey, but suddenly stopped as their control panels flickered. "Sir, we're experiencing communication disruptions," one reported with confusion. Hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Martinez gave the order that humanity had been waiting for. "Activate quantum disruptors. All ships." On the bridge of the UES Valiant, Samantha Wright monitored the readings as the device powered up. The small core she had rescued from the Luna facility pulsed with blue energy, connected to the ship's main power system. "Disruptor at full strength," she reported. "The effect is propagating through subspace." Martinez nodded and opened a channel to all 50 ships in her hidden battle group. "This is Captain Martinez. Commence Operation Hydra. I repeat, commence Operation Hydra." The Earth fleet emerged from hiding, each ship glowing faintly blue as the quantum disruptors created waves in the subspace medium. The effect spread rapidly, like ripples in a pond, reaching the hegemony fleet in seconds. Aboard Zexthar's command ship, chaos erupted. "We've lost contact with the Fleet Coordination Network," an officer shouted. "Ships can't receive central commands." "Impossible," Zexthar hissed. "Switch to secondary systems." "Secondary systems also affected. We're receiving reports of widespread confusion throughout the fleet." For the first time in his long life, Zexthar felt fear. The hegemony's greatest strength had always been its unified command structure. Without it, each ship was on its own. On Earth, a minimal power grid reactivated as President Blackwood restored communications with the hegemony leadership. His face appeared on Zexthar's screen. "High Counselor," Blackwood said calmly, "I wish to discuss the terms of your surrender." Zexthar's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in anger. "Surrender? Your planet is surrounded. Your forces are decimated." "Look around you, Counselor," Blackwood replied. "Your fleet is in disarray. Your ships can't coordinate. Meanwhile, our forces were designed to function independently." He paused. "And we have much more than just the disruption technology." It was a bluff, but Zexthar couldn't know that. Blackwood had studied hegemony psychology during his time as a diplomatic attaché. He knew they respected strength and feared the unknown. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Dawson's captured ship was brought aboard a hegemony cruiser. Under heavy guard, he and his surviving crew were taken to an interrogation chamber. You will tell us everything about Earth's defenses, the alien interrogator demanded. Dawson smiled slightly. It was time to implement Protocol Trojan, feeding the enemy carefully crafted misinformation. Earth has no defenses left, he said. That's why we developed the Omega weapon. Omega weapon? The interrogator paused. The disruption is just the first stage, Dawson continued, looking appropriately terrified. If our planet falls, the device activates fully. It will destroy the subspace medium itself across this entire sector. No more faster-than-light travel. No more communications. For centuries. The interrogator stared at him. Your species would destroy the very fabric of space to avoid defeat. Wouldn't yours? Dawson asked simply. The lie spread through the hegemony command structure, playing on their existing fears about humanity's unpredictability. Samantha Wright continued monitoring the quantum disruptors, making adjustments to optimize their effect. As she studied the data, something unexpected appeared in her readings. Captain, she called to Martinez, I'm detecting another network beneath the one we're disrupting. It's more fundamental, more protected. The hegemony has a backup system. Not exactly, Samantha replied, excitement growing in her voice. This isn't a backup. It's something deeper, something they're keeping secret even from their own forces. Martinez joined her at the console. Can you access it? Maybe, Samantha said. But it would mean modifying our approach completely. We'd need to stop disrupting and start listening. Out in space, Admiral Reeves' main fleet joined Martinez's battle group, forming a protective ring around Earth. The hegemony ships, unable to coordinate their movements, fell into confusion. Some fired at random targets, others hung motionless, waiting for orders that never came. Earth's smaller, more agile ships darted between them, striking with precision where the aliens were weakest. For the first time since the war began, humanity held the advantage. But Zexthar was not defeated yet. Deep within his flagship, he activated a private communication device linked to the hidden network Samantha had detected. Initiate protocol extinction, he ordered. Target, Earth. Captain Martinez felt a surge of hope as Earth's fleet moved with purpose, while the hegemony ships drifted in confusion. The quantum disruptors had worked better than anyone expected. Without their hive mind advantage, the aliens struggled to fight effectively. All battle groups report success, her communications officer announced. The hegemony fleet is breaking apart. Martinez nodded but kept her expression serious. Tell Admiral Reeves we're moving to Phase 3 of Operation Hydra. Earth's fleet split into smaller independent groups, each targeting a section of the enemy force. This was a tactic the hegemony could never understand, fighting without central control. Humans had been doing it for thousands of years. On the UES Valiant, Samantha Wright worked frantically to understand the deeper network she had discovered. It's not just a communication system, she told Martinez, excitement in her voice. The quantum substrate itself appears to have properties we never imagined. It's almost like, she hesitated. Like what, Doctor? Like it's alive, Samantha said, or at least semi-conscious in some way. Martinez looked skeptical. You're saying the hegemony's communication network is sentient? Not exactly. I'm saying the medium they use, this quantum subspace, might have a form of awareness, and the hegemony elites are using it in ways their own people don't know about. Before Martinez could respond, alarms blared across the ship. Captain, her tactical officer shouted. Hegemony command ship is breaking formation. It's heading directly for Earth with an escort of elite vessels. On the hegemony vessel where Lieutenant Commander Dawson was held prisoner, chaos created an opportunity. When a power surge disabled the holding cell's force field, Dawson and his crew seized their chance. They overpowered the guards and moved through the ship's corridors. We need to get to the command center, Dawson told his team. If we can take control of this ship, we can access their intelligence network. Susan nodded. But first, we need to know exactly where we are. They found a computer terminal, and Dawson used the limited hegemony language he had learned to access the ship's status. What he saw made his blood run cold. "This vessel is part of Zexthar's personal guard fleet," he said. "They're on a direct course for Earth. Some kind of protocol extinction." "What does that mean?" asked one of his crew. "Nothing good," Dawson replied grimly. "We need to move faster." In Earth's Emergency Command Center, President Blackwood received the alert about Zexthar's sudden movement. "He's making a final push," General Peters said. "Their elite ships are still functioning despite the disruption. They must use a different system." Blackwood nodded. "The secondary network Dr. Wright discovered." He turned to his communications officer. "Get me Captain Martinez." Meanwhile, Samantha had an idea. Instead of trying to disrupt the deeper network, she adjusted the quantum device to synchronize with it. "If I can match these frequencies," she muttered, "maybe we can do more than just listen. Maybe we can communicate." The device hummed as it aligned with the mysterious subspace frequencies. Suddenly, strange patterns appeared on Samantha's screen, patterns that looked almost like language. "Captain," she called to Martinez, "I think I'm making contact with the quantum medium itself." Martinez hurried over, her conversation with President Blackwood interrupted. "What do you mean?" "It's responding to our signals. Look at these patterns. They are too ordered to be random noise." Samantha's fingers flew over the controls. "It's as if the medium itself is trying to communicate with us." "Can you understand what it's saying?" "Not yet, but—" Samantha stopped suddenly, her eyes widening. "Wait. These patterns, they're similar to something I've seen before." She pulled up old records from the Protocol Omega experiments. "Here, the quantum echoes that appeared during the early FTL tests. They weren't just disruptions, they were responses." Martinez looked troubled. "Are you saying when we conducted those experiments 20 years ago, something answered?" "Yes," Samantha whispered. "And the hegemony has been exploiting it for centuries, maybe even enslaving it somehow." On Zexthar's command ship, the High Counselor prepared to deploy his final weapon, a device that would create a gravitational singularity at Earth's core. His elite guard ships formed a protective barrier around his vessel as they pushed through Earth's defensive line. "The humans believe they have won," he told his officers. "They do not understand that the hegemony cannot be defeated. Any species that discovers the network's true nature must be eliminated, as we have done a dozen times before." What Zexthar didn't know was that Dawson and his team had fought their way to the secondary command center of their captured ship. As Susan hacked into the ship's systems, they discovered shocking information, detailed records of previous civilizations that had found the quantum network's vulnerability, all of them completely wiped out. "We're not the first," Dawson realized with horror. "And if we don't stop Zexthar, we'll be just another extinct species in their records." Captain Martinez ordered all available ships to intercept Zexthar's command vessel as it pushed toward Earth. The battle was fierce, with human ships darting between the larger alien vessels, firing precisely at weak points. But the hegemony's elite guard ships were different from the others. They moved with purpose despite the disruption field. "They're using the secondary network," Samantha explained as she continued to study the strange patterns on her screen. "The one that's connected more deeply to the quantum subspace." "Can you disrupt that too?" Martins asked. "I'm trying something different," Samantha replied. "If this medium is truly semi-sentient, maybe we can do more than just jam their signals. Maybe we can turn it against them." Admiral Reeves' flagship took a direct hit, its shields failing as it moved to protect a damaged Earth vessel. He ordered his crew to abandon ship while he stayed behind to coordinate the defense. Minutes later, his ship exploded in a ball of fire, taking 3 hegemony cruisers with it. On the captured hegemony vessel, Dawson and his team worked quickly. Susan had managed to access the ship's weapons controls. "We're in position to approach Zexthar's command ship," she reported. "They think we're still one of theirs." Dawson nodded. "Get as close as you can. We have one shot at this." He held up the modified quantum disruptor they had assembled from spare parts. This won't disrupt their network. It will flood it with everything we know about what they've done to other species. President Blackwood watched the battle unfold from Earth's command center. Despite humanity's brave defense, Zexthar's ship was getting closer to weapon range. "We need more time," he said quietly. Then his communications officer turned to him with wide eyes. "Sir, we're getting a signal from the hegemony fleet, but it's not from Zexthar. It's from dozens of their ships simultaneously." On the UES Valiant, Samantha Wright finally broke through. The patterns on her screen suddenly resolved into clear sequences that the computer could translate. "Captain," she called, her voice shaking with excitement. "I've made contact with the quantum subspace intelligence. It's been aware this whole time, but trapped. The hegemony didn't create this network. They enslaved it centuries ago." Martinez looked at the translated messages flowing across the screen. "Freedom/HLP/long imprisonment/many species tried/humans delefferient. Can it help us?" Martins asked. "It already is," Samantha replied, pointing to new readings. "Look at what's happening to the hegemony fleet. Throughout space, alien ships began powering down. Some drifted aimlessly. Others turned against Zexthar's command vessel. The quantum intelligence was awakening, rebelling against its longtime masters. Zexthar watched in horror as his fleet turned against him. "What is happening?" he demanded. His officers had no answers as system after system failed aboard his ship. When a familiar vessel approached, one he believed was part of his guard, he didn't realize the danger until too late. Dawson activated his modified disruptor, sending a flood of information directly into the heart of the hegemony's secondary network node. The truth about the hegemony's extermination of previous civilizations, their enslavement of the quantum intelligence, all of it poured into the network. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The quantum subspace itself seemed to ripple with anger. Zexthar's ship lost all power, floating dead in space. Hours later, Martinez, Samantha, Dawson, and President Blackwood gathered in Earth's command center. Reports were coming in from across the solar system. The hegemony fleet had completely collapsed. Many ships had been abandoned by their crews, who fled in escape pods. Others had surrendered. "What happens now?" Blackwood asked. "We've won a battle, but the hegemony controls thousands of worlds." "Not anymore," Samantha said, showing them her tablet. "The quantum intelligence is spreading the truth throughout the network. Every subjugated species in the hegemony is receiving the same message we did. This isn't just a human victory. It's a galactic revolution." Martinez looked out the window at the stars. "We should prepare to make contact with other species. They'll want to know who started this." Blackwood nodded. Peace talks failed with the hegemony. But maybe they can succeed with new allies. 3 months later, Captain Martinez stood in the Great Hall of the newly formed Galactic Cooperative. Representatives from 27 formerly subjugated species gathered to discuss the future. The quantum intelligence itself manifested as patterns of light above the central table. As Martinez prepared to address the gathering, she reflected on humanity's journey. They had faced extinction and emerged not just as survivors, but as liberators.